Hey everybody, so I am just going to run through chapter 9 with you to start. This is on page 47. If you'd like to grab your book and follow along, that would be great. It's called The House of Death Floats By. And again, this is page 47 and it goes to almost the bottom of page 51. So, in other words, the chapter just starts off, they're on Jackson Island and they find a great hiding spot for the canoe, and then they go on and they find this cavern on the hillside, and so they can kind of go in this cavern and it opens up to this big space, so they're able to hide all of their things, keep them out of the rain that's predicted to come. A little more superstition there. Jim hears the birds chirping a certain way and predicts that because of how they're chirping, there's going to be rain. Well, he ends up being right. There's a thunderstorm that night, but luckily they're in the warmth of this cavern. They were able to make a fire in there, hide all their things in there, lay their blankets down, and get through the night and survive the thunderstorm on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. So what happens though is in the night they see that a house is actually floating down the river. And they see it, but it's much too dark. So they said, okay, in the morning, we're going to go look at this house, see what's going on in it, see if there's anybody in it, why there's a house floating down the river. So they go and they look and they peek inside the window and they see a man laying face down. Well, it's a dead man. And he'd clearly been murdered because you can see that he was shot in the back. Well, they proceed to go in the house, and Jim says, I don't want you to see this, Huck. I don't want you to look. I'm going to cover the body up. And Huck's kind of like, his thought process was, I wasn't planning to look anyway. I don't want to see it at all. So then while they're in there, if you're following along in the book with me, and you flip to the very end, page 50 and 51, they kind of scour the place and take everything that might come in handy for them. So there's a long list. They end up taking, where's that list at? We got an old tin lantern, a butcher knife, brand new Barlow knife, tallow candles, tin candlestick, a gourd, a tin cup, ratty old bed quilt off the bed, needles and pins and beeswax and buttons and threads, a hatchet, some nails, fish line as thick as my little finger, some monstrous hooks with it, roll of buckskin, a leather dog collar, a horseshoe, some vials of medicine that didn't have no label on them. And just as we were leaving, then Jim found a fiddle bow. So they made off pretty good. They got a bunch of stuff. And then on page 50, they took women's clothes and men's clothes also, and a boy's old speckled straw hat. You can see that if you look on the front page, he's wearing that hat here that he found. So that is pretty much all that goes on in chapter 9, even though it's a big deal. You know, they see somebody who's been murdered. So that's a big deal. But it happens so fast that you really don't think about what that means. Why did the author put that in there? I think that he put it in there because he wanted to show that even though they think they're secluded on this island, they're really not that removed from the outside world. And I think that's sort of a wake-up call for Huck and Jim. That even though life's pretty good on this island, they've gotten away, they've successfully ran away, they're still a little vulnerable and accessible on the island, and seeing a murdered man might be a little bit of a hint into that. So stay with me, and we'll look at chapter 10 next. All right, thanks for reading, and don't forget to be keeping up with the questions on Schoology on that assignment. So thank you.